protein article. Once they publish, there are no more protein articles. People don't give up. They say, yes, so what? You know it's DNA, but you don't know anything about it. Which leads us kind of to our next step. So kind of the first three players get us to understand that DNA carries the genetic code. And once they do that, we're kind of off to the races. Because once we understand that DNA carries the genetic code, there's tons and tons of research now to try to figure out what DNA looks like. And it turns out some of the motivations are really noble, and some of the motivations are really Nobel. Because obviously there are people that want to, if we study the structure of DNA, that's the first step of studying what? You have to study structure before you can study what? Function. And then once we can study function, then what can we do? Then we can change it, we can mess around with it. So it was obviously clear that whoever figured this out was winning the Nobel Prize. So there were huge races to try to figure out the structure of DNA. The United States had a couple of research groups, Britain had a couple of research groups, Japan had one, Russia had one, Europe had a couple, China I think had one, lots of different things going on. Really would have been cool if the American group had won, because Linus Pauling was doing research at, I want to say Caltech, but I don't think that's right. One of the big California ones. And it would have been cool because if he had figured it out, he would have been the first person to get 3 Nobel Prizes, 1 in each of the sciences. Instead, he only has 3 Nobel Prizes, but 2 of them are in chemistry. Yeah, he's only got 3. But his problem is he was looking for a triple-stranded piece, and that's not right. But there were some things we knew about DNA. We knew about the chemical makeup, because like it or not, and I can say it because most of my chemistry colleagues come around, chemistry is easier than biology. Not to learn, but as far as discovering things, chemistry is just discovering what's in it. We don't have to worry about how it works, we just know what's in it. And we did know quite a bit about the chemical makeup of DNA. All of this you already know. What was known was that it was composed of nucleotides. You know this, we learned about nucleotides a few weeks ago. And that nucleotide contains deoxyribose, contains a phosphate group. Again, all things that you already know. And it contains a nitrogenous base. Turns out there are 2 kinds. There are purines, which are adenine and guanine. Those are just the names of the purines. We'll learn more about the bases when we get there. And there are pyrimidines, which is cytosine and thymine. Good. So the next group we're going to talk about are Franklin and Wilkins. And this time it's even more significant because Franklin, who is in charge of the research group, also happens to be a woman. Her first name is Rosalind. And that's going to turn out to be part of the issue later on down the road. But what Franklin and Wilkins did, and I'll show you a picture of this later, is they used X-ray diffraction. Basically, X-ray diffraction, you send a series of X-rays through a sample. When it hits denser parts of the sample, it will slow those X-rays down. And when you expose it on a film, those areas will appear darker. Areas that are not as concentrated will go right through. So what they were able to show through X-ray diffraction is they were able to show that the DNA fiber was twisted. So it was two strands twisted around themselves. And that there were large groups of molecules in that fiber, and they were spaced at regular intervals. Like I said, I'll show you a diagram. All right, are we good? All right, that's just a picture of Rosalind. All right, let's take a look at this. First of all, ignore the circular images. It's basically just like, you know, if you look down a glass, you get reflection off the side of the glass. That's all that is just bounce back as the sample's going through. This is really what we're interested in. And if I were to ask you what letter that looks like, what would you tell me?
X.
Looks like an X. Well, if we have two strands, what's the only way they're going to make an X?
Crossing each other.
If they are twisted, right? If you have two parallel strands and you twist them, you're going to have an X. And it turns out if you move up this sample, you see them separate out and then come back together and then separate out. So it lets them know that it's double-stranded. And then see how it's dark and light and dark and light and dark and light and dark and light? That pattern lets them know that there are big clumps of molecules here, not so many here, a lot here, not so many here, a lot here. Not. So this pattern of larger clumps of molecules and smaller clumps is a characteristic that they recognize by looking at it. All right. Now we got to cross over the channel, because Franklin and Wilkins were actually working in London. We get to Shaggoff, who's working in